Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Matty B. And it's a big week. Before even I get in the high tempo, I want to talk about Aaron Rodgers. The trade finally went through. And I don't know if you saw the press thing that ESPN put out, but it was like the most ridiculous screen grab. It was supposed to be like their co-hosts or whatever on their ESPN or NFL Live show, their reaction to the Aaron Rodgers news. But it was almost like it was like a fake thing. And I thought, like, why would they be so shocked about this? It's been in the works for like weeks now. And it wasn't even like a big one-sided deal. ESPN's shocked because the deal is they swap first round picks this year. Packers get a second round pick. So basically they're trading Aaron Rodgers for a second round pick because I think they had like a later round pick too. But then next year's pick is the big one because it's a second round right now. If Aaron Rodgers plays 65% of their snaps at least, then it becomes the Jets' first round pick, which I think is a great move for the Packers, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Because if he doesn't play, was he going to really play for the Packers this year anyway? He seems like he doesn't even want to play at all. I think you brought that up. So, what do they have to lose? I feel like if he comes to the Jets, everyone's going to absolutely make fun of him if he doesn't play. Now, if he gets hurt, that's another thing. But realistically, I really don't think the Jets are not going to play him just to save their pick. I feel like he's going to play 65% of the snaps unless he gets hurt. Unless you have another thought on it, I think it's pretty clear, cut and dry.
Yeah, my thoughts on it 100% were the only way the Jets win this trade is if they walk out of this with the Super Bowl.
They're not going to. Well, what do people see that I don't see? Like, where has Aaron Rodgers even gotten the Packers to the Super Bowl? The NFC has been so weak that he's not the missing piece.
But I think, look at it. I'm going to look at this from reverse, though. What's been the thing holding the Jets back? I mean, they have a young receiving core. They have a quality running back. They have defensive playmakers.
It's a murderer's row. That's what's holding them back. They have to beat Patrick Mahomes. They have to beat the Bills. They have to beat Burrow and the Bengals. They have to beat whatever else. Like in their division, it might be okay now because like Tom Brady's not there anymore with the Patriots, and they're kind of having their own thing. But
17 concussions.
Yeah, Tua might not even play. Like if it was Tua and the Packers had to trade, and it was like, yeah, if Tua plays 65% of the snaps, the ESPN Live crew was like, oh, there's a 75% chance that he hits that total. I'm like, there's like a 95% chance that he hits that total. When has he been hurt enough to miss like long periods of time? 65% is like just over half the games, right? Like he would have to miss a good chunk of the season. And I don't think he's really been injured that much. So, I mean, if it was like Roethlisberger or someone that has a history of like getting dinged up all the time because he's old, but Aaron Rodgers has done a pretty good job of just getting the ball out or throwing it away and not really taking too many shots, I think. Maybe that's why everyone's like in love with them. But I
think like there have been so many injuries in the quarterback carousel with the Jets recently that like they've had a lot of instability. So if he plays over 65%, like I'm assuming if he makes it to the playoffs in one piece, they have a decent shot.
My thing is, if I gave you $100 right now, would you put it on the Jets? Like if I told you, hey, pick who you think's going to win the Super Bowl and just bet this for me, would you put it on the Jets?
Oh, I'd have a hard time doing that.
How many hundreds would I have to give you? Like, hey, how many teams should I bet on? 5? Like, I feel like they're going to be pretty low down the list. I don't think they're like number 3 even. Because like I think you would pick Chiefs, Eagles again. Because like they're a big deal.
And I wouldn't even go high on Eagles because I feel like they've lost a lot of people.
I know they have lost a lot of people, but who else in the NFC is going to compete now? I feel like people are sleeping on the NFCs like so bad that it's not beyond the realm of possibilities that Love and the Packers could like make a run and possibly get into the Super Bowl. Right? You have the Cowboys, maybe the Niners and the Eagles. Maybe the Lions have been growing. I don't know.
But I think that's also one of the things with the Packers that they partially win because now they don't have the Aaron Rodgers saga hanging over their head. They still have their first round pick plus the addition of a second. So, I mean, if you really feel like we need to get some weapons around Love, you have 2 additional picks now.
And they moved up like what 2 spots, so it's not really a big deal. But value wise, it might be all right. I don't know.
But I mean, to make sure that you have that first round pick, that if you want like one of those receivers, or I think even that Robinson from Texas will be there when they pick. Like if you want to add some firepower to your offense and take the pressure off of Love, you're able to do that. And then with the extra second round pick or the second round pick they're acquiring, there's more value for it.
I feel like wait for now that you have 2 second round picks, use a running back there. Who knows if Robinson's going to be picked that high, right? Like just sit back and wait and see what happens. But let's go ahead. We'll get in the high tempo here and then we'll hit on the draft because there's some other stuff I want to talk about. I just wanted to get the Aaron Rodgers thing out of the way. So I'll let you go. Do you have anything for high tempo this week?
The high tempo that I had was just, I know we really don't talk a whole lot of basketball, but I was impressed with the Sixers opening series with the Nets. They swept for the first time since Charles Barkley's rookie year. And Embiid's hurt, which I think could possibly be a setback for them going into the second round. But I was impressed that they closed them out. I thought they would drag the dead leg and push it to 5 or 6 games.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up because I feel like the winner, if this holds right now, the Celtics are going to play the Sixers. And I think the winner of that series is probably going to the finals. It looks like the Heat are on path to upset the Bucks. So those would be the next 2 teams in the playoffs. It's not beyond the realm of possibility that there's another upset. But like right now, the Heat are 1 game away, and then they would go ahead and play the Knicks most likely, which is a 5 seed. So like you would have on the other side the 8 and the 5 seed playing. So I feel like the Celtics and the Sixers, whoever wins, is going to be crazy. But I didn't bring it into the pre-show, which I probably should have because it's kind of controversial. But I'm surprised that like the Celtics coach from last year is getting so many looks, right? And I bring this up on the big show because we hear about how Bieniemy has all these issues or whatever in his past, and that like teams are like they're overlooking him, and that's like the elephant in the room. The Celtics coach was hooking up with like a subordinate, right? Like in no way, like if you're at team facilities and you're having inappropriate relationships so much that the NBA suspends you for over a year, I don't think you should be the leading name on coaching searches the next year. Maybe I'm just crazy, but how do you know like that you learned your lesson? Because if that's just who you are, wouldn't that just be like enabling them? I don't know. I saw his name floated around that he might be hired with like Houston or someone, and then that the Toronto was making a late push because he was like friends with their guy. And I know he took the Celtics to the finals, and I think it was his first year coaching. So it's not like they're taking a gamble on like Nick Saban, or hell, it's like not even like Bobby Petrino. People make fun of Bobby Petrino, and maybe because that was a college staffer. But isn't it basically the same thing?
Yeah, I would say probably.
Like, I haven't seen any details where it was kind of just like, oh, whatever. Like, I thought it was someone that worked for the Celtics. Then it was like a whistleblower thing. Unless other details came out, I'm I was kind of just shocked. I'm like that he's just getting so many looks, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, let's go. Yeah, here's the quote from the New York Post one day ago: suspended for the full season and fired by the Celtics after it was revealed he had an improper intimate relationship with the team staffer. That's the exact same thing Bobby Petrino did. Like, why are people raking him through the coals? And like, I don't know what happened with Bieniemy, but it wasn't like a team staffer, I don't think. But it's like, oh yeah, here we go. Houston Rockets are announcing him as the head coach. I think that's the one that it actually went through. Just crazy to me that there's not more, like, only the New York Post is writing about it. Everyone else is just like writing the article that, oh yeah, he's the new head coach. Like, what's people say? Following a scandal. But like, if you write an article that it's about violating, or like there's a scandal, but then you only put in there that it's a violation of team policy, then like, well, what the heck? Right? To me, I don't know. I don't get it. Seems crazy. Maybe it's a thing where it doesn't really matter, but like, if you're supposed to be the head, you would think that the organization would be up there. Maybe he is the greatest coach. He's like Phil Jackson or something, the next Phil Jackson. I don't think the Celtics regret getting rid of him based on where he was there for 1 year, and Matt, the team hasn't dropped off at all. Like, the Celtics should win the East again, unless like the Sixers upset them, which would be an upset there. It would be 3-2, right? I know they didn't get the number 1 seed overall, but if they go to the finals and win it all this year, I think you can say like Celtics probably lucked out. That's my feeling on it. There'll probably be some people that come after me and attack me, but I just don't see it any other way. Everyone can make fun of Bobby Petrino, but this is kind of like, oh no big deal. It's kind of just like the elephant in the room. NBA's kind of just like not talking about it from what I've seen.
But I think the big difference with the Petrino thing was that he ended up like getting into an accident. So like, well,
like that's what I'm saying. Like, people make fun of that, but it was kind of the same thing where it's like immediately fired. Like, they didn't even fire him until February. Like, until the new coach that like was interim. And that's what drives me, like, it's insane to me. Because like, it was like the Celtics said, well, he was a pretty good coach, we might want him back. But they waited until their team had like a successful season, and they're like, well, it's February, let's hire this guy, because it seems like we're still rolling. Right? Maybe he wasn't the reason behind our success. And there were rumors around that time that he might not come back, and I was thinking, what do you mean rumors? He might not come back. I was just assuming he was gone no matter what. It was a formality. But apparently, some people thought that he would just be back. So, I don't know. I'm looking forward to the series, so we'll see what happens. But I didn't want to really bring that up on the show before. But after, like, Eric Bieniemy, he didn't get hired as a head coach, right?
No.
It's like, well, how can one sport have a guy that gets no chance, but then in the NBA, because we don't know if he's the secret to the Celtics' success. They've been pretty good no matter what, right? I think Brad Stevens is still behind the scenes. This could be a Wisconsin football situation, whereas Barry Alvarez still pulling strings, and it's just like his program and he's behind it.
Yeah.
With Brad Stevens not wanting to do the coaching, but he's doing everything else. I don't know. That's just a conspiracy on my end, and I'm not like a diehard basketball fan or anything. The one thing I had for High Tempo was just kind of like the misleading ESPN Plus advertisements, because I talked last week about hockey, where I said like, yeah, I can't wait because the ESP or the NHL like website for the playoffs specifically has the ESPN Plus logo. So I just assumed it would be like college hockey, where if you had ESPN, you watch it there. If you have ESPN Plus, you just watch the game there. Wrong. None of the games have been on ESPN Plus. You can use the ESPN Plus app to stream if you have cable. But to me, that's like false advertising, Because if I see the ESPN Plus logo recently in terms of like college sports, that means that if you pay for the Hulu bundle or whatever, you can watch the game. NHL, they had to have said no. Because I don't think ESPN wants people not to watch. And I'm kind of surprised that like even the NHL would not want more people to watch the game. And it gets into, I keep hearing people talk about the Pac-12 TV deal. And secretly, I'm hoping that the CW and Ion Television or whatever that free channel is get the deal. Because, Matt, you know how many hoops you have to jump through to watch Pac After Dark?
Yes.
It's insane. So if I'm watching the new Big Ten night game, Michigan's playing Penn State or something on NBC, which I think is like the new TV deal, when the game's over, I want to just, hit up on my TV channel 2 times or whatever to get to CW, and boom, Pac-12 After Dark is on. Because sometimes I end up just watching whatever random little school game is on the Stadium channel. It's over the air free down here. It's channel 22.
Yeah.
I am like, because I can't find Pac-12 network. I'm not looking for it to try to stream it and figure out how I can watch it. They were supposed to be like on Twitter that one time, and then it was kind of there, then it was kind of on Amazon. Like, people are making fun of it, but the visibility and the easiness of getting the games on the Pac-12 network, if it was just on the CW, would be a million times better than what they have now. Because this is kind of like off topic because we're not in college football yet. But I saw some predictions based on the new Big Ten TV deal. And there were like 2 weeks, I think, this might have been for next year, where the hypothetical schedule, there was only 2 weeks where one of those networks like Fox wouldn't want to pick a Big Ten game. Right? It was like Michigan playing Colorado State or someone. And like all the big name teams were like Cupcake Week. It's like weeks 2 and 3, I think. And they're like, that's the game. That's the week where the Big 12, if they could put a matchup between like TCU and like Oklahoma State, they might be able to get the primetime spot. And I'm thinking, like, you have 2 weeks out of the entire year, your conference can get the primetime spot. And it was like a Big 12 blog writing about it. And I was thinking, this is sad. Like, it makes me feel bad for like West Virginia fans, but they're hoping like that they can get picked twice for the Fox big noon game. That's their hopes. Where meanwhile, I'm like, damn, I hope Michigan doesn't get the 3:30 game. They better either be on the big noon or NBC's night game, right? So, spoiled, I guess. That's what I want for the Pac-12. I just want to watch whatever games I want to watch. If it's on TV, it's better. Just like the NFL. If it's on the TV, I'm not going to pay for the NFL Red Zone. I don't know if you saw, but I think they were giving $100 off now again. Where like if you signed up early, so they must not be selling many packages, but they like extended the $100 off deal or whatever it was, I think. And I thought, good.
Oh, I thought that, but I mean, you'd made the point earlier. I think if you're going to advertise a streaming service that is going to offer like extra stuff, maybe you should add the extra shit in there and not just be, hey, it's ESPN Plus, but it means it's ESPN Plus. You got to sift through a bunch of trash to try to get to something that you actually want to watch. Like, there's so much random programming and little clips and like other like just crap that I don't want. And it would be nice to be able to, like you said, like during football season, have the games. Like, you're sending all these people around for updates and stuff. Like, if I want to watch some obscure game, like, I should be able to have access to it. I'm not saying I need to have 14 different camera angles, but the general feed that you're pulling highlight clips from, like, it's okay to allow people to watch that.
Well, that's why I was arguing with a buddy about this. I've been using the Hulu app. Because the Hulu has, at least for my account, if you go down like 3 rows, it has like its own ESPN Plus row. And it's usually the live games. If you go on the ESPN Plus app, I had to sift through. What was I looking for on Saturday? It might have been like the XFL or something. I was sifting through 100 spring games that were replays. And I thought, like, I don't want to sit here and watch, like, the Ohio State spring game. Like, are you kidding me? I just want to find the regular game, you know? Like, where are the live games that I can watch for whatever it was? I think it was the XFL, because I was trying to see what the playoffs were going to be. And then it's just, like, insanity to me. Because, like, if the ESPN Plus is billed as, hey, pay this fee, and you have it on your promo for your playoffs, there better be some games for free on that ESPN Plus service. Not ESPN Plus app plus ESPN, or you need to put that as a symbol, like ESPN Plus with, you know how, like, was it HBO or whatever had, like, oh, you can watch this if you have the HBO Go Plus package. And then it was like a complete failure, and now they're like redoing their app again. It's like, yeah, you have like 13 packages. Who the hell's going to know what the hell they're going to watch? Even Netflix now, if you pay for the cheapest, like I've been doing, like, because I rotate them. So I pay for the cheapest one right now. They let me know that they're upping my resolution, which makes sense because, like, you're serving, like, how many other, like, slower versions of this for cheap? Like, it's going to be the bandwidth at some point. It's going to just be practically the same. You're not saving that much. And then to just store or, like, serve the extra, like, processing power. Anyway, there was a bunch of movies and stuff that you have to pay an extra fee to get, like, Netflix movies now. And I thought, like, hide that shit. I'm never going to pay for Netflix movies, bro. Like, get out of here. They're like all old movies. I'm like, you could just, if you have the DVD for those, like, why would you pay? And people probably do pay for Netflix to just watch the same crap. Maybe some people pay for ESPN Plus just to watch replays. I still haven't even watched a replay of the Michigan spring game. I saw bits and clips of when it was live. I was doing something else, and I thought, hey, I like what I see. Team looks good. I should go back and watch the spring game like 3 or 4 times. And then I'm like, I'm busy. Like, hockey, it's all this stuff's on. So I'm sure when July rolls around, I'll be like, hey, I'm really bored. The Braves are winning. I need something else to watch. Oh, I'll watch Michigan spring game. That's when I'll circle back to it. But I don't know. It drives me nuts. Let's get into the NFL draft. I wasn't even excited about the draft until the Packers made their move. Because I was like, I feel like it's come full circle now. Because when was it, a year ago? I got the Packers stock, talked about it on the show. The Packers are going to be my team, right? And then Aaron Rodgers is still there. It's like you dating a new girl, but like her ex is just like living with her because that's the situation. That's what it was like for me. So it's like, do I want them to win with Aaron Rodgers? He's kind of a jerk. And I think he chokes in big games, right? I don't see the hype of him. But of course I want the Packers to win because I'm an owner now. Now I don't have to worry about that. He's gone. This is a new leaf. X finally moved out. We can move on, start our life together. Me and the Packers. Jordan Love, if he's the guy, maybe. I look across the NFC. I don't see a lot of big name QBs. Someone has to step up. Why not Love? Last time I saw him play, it looked like he was getting the ball out quick, which is a big thing here. I wanted to mention, because I have it in the show notes, CJ Stroud. They changed the Wonderlic test. So it used to be like an IQ test type thing, right? Now it's a test where it's based on quickness. So it's supposed to be like looking at pictures and stuff. I don't know. I didn't see like a simulation of what it is. But the higher you score, the faster you're supposed to be able to process things and read the defense. So a lot of the good quarterbacks now have really high scores on this test. CJ Stroud surprisingly scored low, which I thought he was pretty good at reading defenses. But now there's some things coming up with Ohio State where one of the execs said the exact same thing that I said, where he's not high on Stroud. He thinks he's going to be a bust because he played at Ohio State. Other guys are starting to see that, hey, maybe it's just a system QB type thing, where if you're throwing to 3 first-round picks, man, in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Most of the time, those guys are going to make the catch. You can make the bad read. You can make the ridiculous throw, but most of the time, the guys aren't going to make the play. I go back to the Michigan game last year where Ohio State's hanging around. It's like the third or fourth quarter. They had that great play call to the tight end, I think it was, where Michigan's Sanders still came up. I think he's like our nickel. I don't even know what position he plays. He was a wide receiver a couple years ago. He runs all the way across the field and breaks it up. And as I get ready for the NFL draft and I see the CJ Stroud stuff, that reminds me of like the Craig Krenzel play from like the Purdue game, remember? From like 2002. Purdue was about to upset them. They had the tight end come across the field. I think it was that game. Maybe it was Iowa doing something against Purdue. But one of those teams from that year when the Big Ten, I think Iowa and Ohio State both went 8-0. But one of them, I think it was the Purdue game where they had the tight end come across and you throw it up. And that was the play for last year for Ohio State. Stroud stayed alive, made the great throw, and the defender just made a hell of a play. And I thought any other team, that's a completion. Because that tight end's so much better than their linebackers. There's only 2 or 3 teams that Ohio State plays every year that can match up with them. So of course their quarterbacks are going to be awesome, right? And heck, even the teams that match up against them, like Georgia has 5-star D-backs. Michigan has 2 at most a year. Penn State probably the same. Like those are the teams I'm thinking of that can match up physically and like talent wise with the secondary. But even most times, I think Ohio State has the edge.
But a lot of times, you may only get one style, like one legit player, because now you're dealing with a lot of the transfer portal issues.
Yeah, we're going to get into that later in the show, the transfer stuff. But in terms of like the draft, I think when you're looking at the teams, because they're talking about the player going number 1, which is why I bring this up. Because it used to be Stroud, and I said, like, wait, hold on. How many times can you just gamble on an Ohio State quarterback and have it never work out? Like in the hundreds of years, or however many long years the NFL has been around, there hasn't been a really successful Ohio State quarterback. And I know there's been different schemes and everything, but like it seems weird that some teams that like run a pro system seem to always have guys in the league. And hell, you can even include Pitt, USC. I mean, Tom Brady was around forever, but like Michigan had Chad Henne. Chad Henne's still playing in the league. I think he just retired like after his 58th year. It's like, all right, some of these teams have have systems that are like more pro style that just fit the mold of an NFL quarterback, and it's never been Ohio State. So no matter how many years you want to try to draft their guy, let him fall to late first round or second round and see if it works out. Like Tom Brady fell all the way to the 6th round. It worked out. But now it's like, what would be your pick? So I brought up the new test. I don't know what the hell it's called. But Bryce Young was the number 1 scorer. There are rumors down here. I think it was trending. There are rumors that Will Levis, I think that's how you say his name, from Kentucky. He's been telling people that the Carolina Panthers are taking him number 1. And I thought, they got that coach, Frank Reich or whatever from the Colts, right? That's his style of quarterback. Not a young, shifty Bryce Young, right? So, would I be shocked if they took Levis number 1? Like, hell no. I think that's what he wants to do. Would I take that? No, I would go with Bryce Young.
Yes.
So, who do you think goes number 1? Not who you would want, because I think we both agree that it should be Bryce Young, right? Do you think the Panthers take Levis instead?
I think they could, but I could see him falling a little bit more and having somebody trade to jump up and grab him is what I think will end up happening. But I think there's a lot of unknowns. Like he has the athleticism or like the combine measurables, but like I think they're gonna NFL teams are gonna want to see more consistency, and I think like over the course of the last 2 years, you're getting that with Bryce Young. So I think like that's gonna be, if you're drafting number 1 overall, you're looking for stability and game changing ability. And I think like he would bring that from the like of those quarterbacks. Like he's had the big game scenarios that he's going to come in and be able to step in day one and fit the bill.
Yeah, so he was like, what, at 50-1 odds to go number one. Now the odds have jumped all the way up to like 4 out of 1 because like everyone's been throwing money in after that rumor started. So will he go number one? I don't know. I feel like the Colts though, like when the Panthers hired that guy, they don't want Bryce Young, and it's in my gut. I feel like they'll end up taking anybody but him. Like if they randomly took a D lineman or something, I wouldn't be shocked at all. Like I would just say like, oh yeah, he needs to get his guy. Now whether it's in this draft in the first round or for someone later, because like if you're a guy right there, like I don't know if Stroud how far he's falling, but heck, just go ahead, shore up the offensive line, defensive line. And then take your pick late and get C.J. Stroud or someone. Or like if Levis is going to be the guy you want, you don't have to go number one to get him. I think that's what like something where you could let him fall a bit to get. Because like why not take like Richardson? Like he's like there's so many quarterbacks this year, and I don't think there's a sure thing. So like. Why would you go ahead and do that? Because I'm looking right now. I guess not everyone ran the 40-yard dash. Richardson had the fastest time. What was the split? Did Levis even do anything on here? Oh wait, yeah, he did the vertical. Which, like, if you just want to freak, just go get Richardson and see if you can work on his stuff. You know. They don't have like any throwing things on here. I just want to see like what the actual stats were. But they have him graded as a 6.34. They have Levis as the fourth best quarterback behind Richardson, Stroud, and Young. Young is overall number one by a good bit. So if they draft him overall number one, that would be insane. I would be shocked if that happened. Like he's a bigger quarterback. He's only 6'4" though, like compared to like 6'5" or 6'6", like a big time QB. I feel like there's going to be something else that comes up, and like of course while I'm looking at his stats, they have someone talking over it, but his production in college was only a 77. That's his production score. So. It's like the opposite of the Ohio State. Like, yeah, you went to Kentucky, but you didn't win as much, right? Oh, I didn't have the studs. If I had the studs in the NFL, it's like, yeah, but the defense is also going to be better. Like, that's why, honestly, if it wasn't for the injury, Hendon Hooker looked like a guy. Someone was arguing with me about Tennessee's talent, and they were saying that Hooker only looked good because Tennessee was loaded. When the hell has Tennessee been loaded? Tennessee's been garbage for like 20 years now. I don't get it. Do people just think that because they're in the SEC that they're loaded with talent? They're not Bama or Georgia.
Because the ESPN jam Peyton Manning highlights down your throat that you're like, oh yeah, Tennessee's good.
Peyton Manning, yeah, he was awesome. Remember, they won the Natty as soon as he left. He couldn't even get it done. They're like, yeah, we'll wait till you're gone and then we'll win it. With like basically the same team. But that's my thing. I don't know. Who are you looking like? Because I'm looking at the draft this year. I'm not really excited about like any big time guy. Honestly, I'm looking for. You have Robinson. Is he really that much better than the other running backs? I'm not 100% sure. Like, we'll find out. What about like wide receivers? Because like even then you have like a mix of guys that are big time. Like even Pitts, Jordan Addison's down here, kind of lower. To me, he's like an impact guy. If the Packers would nab him in the second round, I'd be super pumped. But but I don't have any like guys that I'd really want to see them grab. What about you?
I kind of thought, like, it seems like there's more talent with, like, the defensive players and the offensive line. And I think, you know, I was talking with someone earlier today about it, and it was like, I don't know if, like, the Steelers is an example that I feel like should go offensive line, but everything says, like, that you read or you look at the mocks are saying, oh, well, it would be too early for them to take a lineman with their first round pick. You know, they have to, the draft value has to be, it's like, don't give me that draft value horseshit. If there's a guy there that can help solidify the line, you take him where he's at.
That's where I'm looking at the list, and I think the Lions, because I know a lot of Lions fans, they're talking about Jalen Carter possibly falling to them because of his like issues with that car accident.
Yeah,
and I'm like, if you have a guy that talented, like, is he really going to fall in the NFL? They really don't seem to care about off the field issues. I know we just talked about it with the NBA, but it's like, all right. If he's talented enough, if the Panthers took him overall number 1, I wouldn't be shocked.
but look at the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, there's notorious for taking people with, like, waiting for someone to have an arrest record to sign them.
I didn't fact check this, but someone told me when we were talking about this that Laramie Tunzel is now like the highest paid lineman. And remember, he had that draft issue. Now his draft issue came up during the draft. Right? The draft starts, and they post a video of him ripping a bong, and like receipts from like Ole Miss's staff like paying his dad or stepdad or whatever. And so it was like, oh, this is spicy. Like, will they even take him? Because like obviously there's some stuff, but a lot of the stuff that they really posted was like, other than the weed, was kind of just like college stuff, right? College issues of like getting paid. So the NFL didn't care about that at all. Now, Jalen Carter, whether he was involved in like this car chase or whatever, I don't know, like the street racing. Obviously, the team would have to know, like, yeah, we're going to put someone with you, so you're not doing that. He might be scared straight at this point anyway, after he lost like his buddy. But now I don't know. The other guy that I'm excited about is Will Anderson. I know I won't see him on any of my teams, really. No one's drafted that high. But that would be a guy where, like, if Carolina took him number 1, he was so good at Bama.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Like, if you're not going to get Bryce Young, get Will Anderson or take a gamble on Jalen Carter. I really don't see any other pick for them. Like, I don't think you're going to just randomly take a lesser quarterback. Because, like you said, the draft value is a real thing. They can go ahead and tease Will Anderson. For whatever reason, he's not getting the hype that even the guy from Georgia that had last year, Walker, that had way less production and athleticism or whatever, I think, right? Because Hutchinson crushed the other guy in the combine, I thought. Because Hutchinson's combine was unreal. He had like a record for like shuttle time and stuff. But they were like, no, this Walker guy, he's going to be the best. And I feel like no one's talking about Will Anderson that way. And I thought, out of those 3 dudes, I thought Will Anderson might be the better raw guy. Like raw talent where the NFL could really boost him up. I mean, I'm kind of biased towards Hutchinson. But I thought Walker was the weakest of the 3. So Will Anderson, if you would tell me like last year, number 1's going to be between Hutchinson and Will Anderson, I would have been like, oh yeah. Take your pick. Like, you got to get a dude no matter what. And this year, they're kind of like, maybe he'll be number 2. They're like, really want to get a quarterback. And I don't think the quarterback draft this year is any better than last year. That's my final thought on it.
But I almost feel like with this group of quarterbacks, they're very much successful college quarterbacks. And the one thing that the NFL is known for is taking guys from a variety of college schemes and then going, I don't give a crap. This is the NFL, and you're going to learn this NFL playbook and like change all of the stuff that made them successful in college. Like they're not going to tailor some of this to their pro game. It's very much like cookie cutter esque. So in that regard, I don't know that the quarterbacks are going to out the gate be as successful. Now, if they pick up the learning curve quicker than one another, I mean, maybe you have that possibility, but there's a reason that a lot of these teams drafted in the first 5 or 6 picks pick there.
They have Carolina going, like they say the best fit for Carolina is Bryce Young. And if he's not available, they should go Tyree Wilson, who's like the 4th overall. I don't think you just go ahead and take the 4th overall best player if you don't want a QB. Like, why not just go Will Anderson? And they have Bijan Robinson as number 2 overall. I really don't see that. Maybe he will be like Adrian Peterson. I didn't think he was like a crazy standout running back. Right?
Yeah.
Because, like, honestly, they're comparing him to, like, Saquon Barkley. But, like, Saquon Barkley had a ton of, like, just Houdini-type runs where he was just breaking free and he was gone. I don't remember seeing that from Robinson.
But I remember with Saquon, the concern that I had was that it was almost too good to be true. Like, he was, like, power cleaning 700 pounds and, like, just weight room freak and had all the stuff that you're looking for, but it's like, there's no way he can keep healthy. Like, there's something's going to break. And he did maintain relative health.
Because, like, I'm looking at Robinson highlights right now, and yeah, he's breaking some tackles, but a lot of his long runs are just gigantic holes. And like Saquon was like making things happen against Ohio State and like returning kicks and stuff to where like they needed him to win. Like if Saquon wasn't on the team, like they crushed Michigan that year because he was running wild. And Penn State hasn't really beat Michigan even, let alone destroyed them like that.
Yeah.
So, like, Bijan Robinson, like, I don't remember a game where you can say flat out, like, yeah, that was a Robinson game. That was the game where he became the number 2 pick. I think with Barkley, you had the Michigan game and you had the Ohio State game where you said he won those 2 games. At Penn State, because I kept saying, like, I even had, like, the Penn State, like, mocks I read, like, not the mocks, but, like, the previews the following year were like, oh, Barkley, his loss isn't going to be that bad. They're going to run over Michigan again. And I thought, like, they haven't really threatened Michigan. Even their best year, Michigan crushed them. The year they won the Big Ten. The only time they've won the Big Ten in the past, like, 10 years, Michigan beat them by, like, 40 to, like, 14 or whatever that one year was. The Peppers year where he almost had the punt return and stuff. You know how much Peppers means to Michigan. Like he was the dude. So that's the kind of impact like Saquon Barkley had. And people kind of blew it off at Penn State, and they haven't had a guy like that since. So I don't know. I just don't see like as good as Bijan Robinson is, I don't think he's overall number 2 good. And if he even gets drafted in the top 10, I would kind of be shocked. Now, Matt, I'll put a caveat on this. In 5 years, he might be my keeper in fantasy football as I overdraft for him and go on to win my next championship or next like 3 championships. Like, I don't know. I'm not putting that outside the realm of possibility. I'm just saying I don't think he's that good. He's not Derrick Henry or Eckler good to me right now.
Right now.
Give him a couple of years. Maybe I'll be wrong.
Pick him up on the fantasy wire.
Like when I got McCaffrey, and then he started getting hurt. That's when you know when I get you, Robinson. That's when your career will start going under. You'll start to get hurt every year.
And then suddenly he was healthy again. No, I'm good.
Like McCaffrey, I'm not getting rid of that guy. Then he goes to the Niners, and he's like perfectly fine.
Suddenly I'm healed.
Oh my gosh, it's a miracle. I found the water in the desert.
Just need to play at the West Coast.
Yeah, I had to hit the rock twice, though. Got it out. Anything else you have for the NFL draft?
No. I'm excited to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, I'm trying to even think what I had even to talk about this week. So we talked about CJ Stroud. Oh, kind of like an interim college football type thing. News comes out that the Big Ten is hiring away some Pac-12 officials. And not only that, the Pac-12 is losing officials to some other random leagues. And it seems like the league is falling apart. And one of their guys, I don't know where his AD, but one of their ADs is like, things are great. We're going to be the third highest paid conference when this is done. And I was thinking, like, who's telling you that? Like, could you imagine if you're like Florida State sitting there and the other conference is completely falling apart and then they would rake more money in you than anyway? They would just be like, I think that would just cause the ACC to implode. Because if the Pac-12 somehow pulls out the CW deal where they're like the third highest paid conference, I would be laughing so hard. Because the Big Ten is probably like, what the hell? You're supposed to be dead, buddy.
But we have Raycom.
Well, Raycom is just a deal that screwed the ACC. Because like that guy's kid or like his family member owned it. Like that's an inside job that every other school, especially the new ones from the Big East, I mean, they should hate North Carolina and all that stuff that happened from that. Like, I don't know how they can't look at the Tar Heels and like their connections and be like, you signed us up with Raycom? Why? No one in the North even heard of Raycom. I hadn't heard of Raycom until I moved to the South. You go to Florida, they don't even know what the hell Raycom is, right? I think it's like a Eastern, like a North Carolina type thing.
Yeah.
So, awesome deal, guys. Awesome deal. Meanwhile, the Big Ten's like, we'll just take NBC, CBS, and Fox. And then there's so much hype that I would probably watch. This is my hypothetical, Matt. Someone posted online, NFL has like their watch party where they release the schedule. Would you watch a Big Ten schedule release? Because I think I would at this point. I would want to see what networks pick what game. Because they moved the Michigan game. Michigan's going to host Texas 2024, which will be next year, on Fox as part of the deal for them to leave early. Michigan was supposed to play in Texas, I think, and they flipped it, which is awesome because there's a feeling that Texas cancels that second game anyway. So for them to leave early to go to the SEC, they have to go to the Big House. Arch Manning. Could be his first start on the road, Matt.
That would be a hype game.
Because Ewers has to be able to graduate, right? To be draft eligible after this year? Because didn't he play at Ohio State for a year?
He might have.
I think he was like there collecting checks, remember? And then he transferred out. He never played. He just did NIL. Then he went to Texas and played last year, so this should be his third year, I think. So that means if he goes pro, Arch Manning, who didn't look good, they have to start him. Or he's going to transfer out, right? That would be an all-time hype game. If Manning comes in and beats Michigan, I would be so... Well, I guess Michigan would be reloading anyway, because I think Michigan's going to lose a bunch of guys after this year. So... who knows? But that's my next topic. Spring transfer season. Everyone keeps going after Deion Sanders. And I don't get it. Because he's bringing in guys, and I know he's had like 40 guys transfer or whatever. It doesn't matter. He has to get his own guys in. You have guys talking about, well, he won't let me transfer. He won't give me like my footage. But then the guy didn't play on the spring football game. He didn't practice with them. So like, if a guy's not connected to the team at all, why is Deion going to go out of his way to help this guy find a landing spot, right? Does Dion even know the guy? Like, I have trouble remembering people. Can you imagine if you're the coach and you were coaching another team that had 100 guys on it? You go to another school, you're trying to learn all the recruits, and all the guys that are on your team, you have 100 dudes there. But then you have a guy that you never really worked with that's nagging you. I feel like what's Dion doing everything himself? It has to be like an assistant thing, right? I don't get it. Like, if it's an administrative thing, all the people going after Dion, we've seen it happen with other schools, usually just get swept away, but because Dion has all the hype, that's supposedly why the TV network's interested in Colorado in the Pac-12. It might even have been the Pac-12's AD, or Colorado's AD that said that. Now that I think about it.
Well, I mean, it was crazy to see the last year spring game and then this year's spring game. Like, Boulder was rocking.
But wasn't last year also really cold and snowy? And I know their team was bad last year, so it did look fun this year. Or maybe it was this year that they had to clear the snow. I know that, like, Michigan's game there, it was so cold that there was hailing. And so, like, yeah, if you have a nice day, you're going to get more people there. Like Nebraska fans, new coach, they're hyped up. People were surprised, like they were like second or third in attendance. And it's like they always have good spring attendance. What else is there to do in Nebraska? With a new coach? Like, are you kidding me? That has hype coming in? And I think they play each other, don't they? Don't Nebraska and Colorado play? I want to say they're renewing their rivalry this year. Because I think that's the one thing that I'm going to look it up, because everyone's talking about Dion, how his team might only win 3 games this year. Because they play TCU, Nebraska, Colorado State, and then the Pac-12. Which, to me, why are you playing both TCU and Nebraska? Who are you doing that for? But honestly, why are you doing that? No one else can. If Alabama can schedule 2 cupcakes, then everyone else should be doing what Alabama does. And don't pretend that, oh, wait, they do have 2 tough teams scheduled, because they only have 8 conference games. Colorado has 9 conference games. They do not need 2 Power 5 opponents, especially TCU coming off a natty appearance and Nebraska with a new coach. I know that's a rivalry one. Get rid of TCU. Why the hell are you scheduling them? Schedule Hawaii or like Idaho or something. Not even that, like Colorado Tech. Keep it easy. Because you need 2 wins automatically to get bowl eligible. But I don't think their schedule is as hard as what people are saying. If Michigan had the schedule, I would say, oh, that's at least 10 wins. TCU's on the road to open the year. That might be rough. You get USC at home. Maybe UCLA on the road. Oregon on the road. Those would be the 2 that I think you might drop one of them. If that, though, why not have the hype? If he wins like 7 or 8 games, people will go absolutely insane, Matt. It only takes one major upset, and they have, well, depending on how you view Nebraska, if they beat TCU, Nebraska, Oregon, or USC, I think the hype train is going to come off the roof. Or come through the roof, whatever the hell. Off the rails. That's when it's going to get big. Because Nebraska has a brand new coach, and it looked like they were close to winning, and they never could. If Colorado comes in, or Nebraska comes to Colorado, if Colorado beats them that game, I don't see how you don't go bowl eligible this year. Arizona State and like Stanford, is Stanford even good? Oregon State's supposed to be good. They have Uyunglele now. but like the rest of them, they're kind of like mediocre to good. They're not like great teams in the Pac-12. So, I don't know. I'm predicting them to have a much better year than what people are expecting. 3 wins, though, is a joke. What other things do you have spring transfer season?
I mean, as far as the transfers go, I almost feel like this is the natural progression of how things are going to go now at the NCAA, where you have a shot to earn your roster spot. The staff is evaluating how many new high school players like they're going to be able to bring in. And so you're looking at, all right, well, did you produce in the spring, like your spring practices, and be like, well, you know, if you're one of those bubble guys, maybe you just say, all right, this is where we're trimming things. And in years past, I think you had these players that were gray shirted, that they're like, well, go to this junior college and we'll pick you up in the next cycle, and like kind of doing some of these number manipulation things. And I think it's just like with the transfer portal and the NILs, that this is just where it's just going to become more like free agency.
Well, that's 100% what it's going to be. And I think that it's okay. Michigan had a bunch of guys that were upperclassmen transfer out after the spring game. I think they saw the writing on the wall, right? Now, you're leaving some positions that are kind of like pretty stacked depth-wise. And now you can bring in some other transfers for positions like cornerback that might have some holes, right? Like Georgia lost a cornerback. Some other schools have like the same type of thing happening where, awesome. Bring some other guys in and let it happen. If you're going to fully do this, then let's go all the way. And also the paying. The paying has to be figured out because you have so many guys that are like half paid, or some schools like not following through on their paid promises. And you hear like, hey, NIL wasn't what I expected. Yeah, because they lied to you. So like, let's get the schools out there that are lying and kind of go from that. And I think some of the upperclassmen guys, hey, if you're not going to play, why not go to a school that might have chances for a national championship, and you're going to have a base NIL package, so you can get paid for a year, potentially play in the national championship playoffs. Awesome. That's why I want the expanded playoff. I think the expanded playoff will be good for everybody, because right now you already have the hype starting where it's like, hey, can you get Georgia and Alabama in? Haven't even played a game. Put them in, and now they're talking about, can the Big Ten get 2 teams in again? What if Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State all split, Matt, and they're all 11-1? Do you try to put them in the playoffs? And then what if they both lose again? It's like, oh, awesome. Great work, guys. So the other conferences, it's like, yeah, you're good enough, but we're definitely not putting you in. Like last year, if USC would have won over Utah and made the playoffs and lost to Georgia, no one would have cared. But the fact that Ohio State was so close and Michigan were so close, people were like, oh, Big Ten, maybe they should have 2 teams in again, which is good for the Big Ten, not so good for everyone else. But expand the playoffs and then let's see. That's what I can't wait for. When's that happening? 2015 or so?
Yeah.
So let's get that happening. Because, like, heck, Texas, Michigan, early in the year, that could be a rematch playoff game, which would be kind of sweet. Maybe. Could you imagine if they met again in the Final Four? Like in college basketball? 11-1. Like if either team wins on a field goal early in the year in September, and then they meet again in the Final Four, like I think that will be hyped up. Kind of like the LSU and Alabama rematch. But instead of them just gifting it to them, now you have to win a couple playoff games, right? I think that's better for everyone involved.
Yeah.
I don't see any negatives with the spring transfers. Why have a guy stuck if he's not going to play, if he's not going to get paid? That's the way the sport's going. That's kind of all I have today. I really don't have any energy left. Do you have anything else you want to talk about for the final bell?
No, that's about it. Just looking forward to getting some more info from the draft and being prepared to talk some more football next week.
We also have the XFL playoffs coming up. I failed to mention it earlier. I brought it up, and then I was just trying to keep going. I'm pretty tired today. DC Defenders are going to play Seattle, and then Houston's going to host Arlington, which Arlington had a losing record. But that's the negatives of having only 8 teams. St. Louis was 7-3. They're eliminated. And they won their last game too, so they could have had a chance to get in, but Seattle won and had the tiebreaker. Which it actually their record seemed pretty close. St. Louis actually had a better touchdown differential. They were both 3-3 in the division. They both were pretty close for points allowed and points scored on the year. So it's crazy that you have 2 teams that are so close, and now you have to watch the other team from the other division have a losing record and get in. I almost wish they would just
DC
do
or the AFC, and the other side's the NFC.
Yeah, right there. Arlington losing record. So. Jordan Love, Matt, he's right there, going to make his first Super Bowl appearance this year. Hopefully, it'll be awesome. Or it's like the Big Ten West. Oh, damn, the Celtics lost, so maybe that won't happen. I should have had that up. And the Hurricanes lost, too. A bad night overall. Maybe I should go to bed and I'll wake up and it won't never have happened. All right, thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.